welcome here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm Fatemeh Tofiqi, Assistant Professor of Religious Studies at the University of Religions, Qom, Iran. This year I will be a research fellow at Forum Transregionale Studien in Berlin. That's why I'm here, and I'm glad that I'm moderating this session. This session is dedicated to studying different understandings and different theories of the history of Shia and the formation of Shia. As you well know, there are different theories on the formation of Shia, mostly on the polemical nature of this formation and how it was in debate with other groups within Islamic history and in different regions that Shia as a group started to form itself, and how it went through different stages of its formation and how it could have its starting point in different regions. So the first talk is by Dr. Mohsen Alviri, who is Associate Professor at the University of Baqir al-Ulum in Qom. He is a very well-known expert in history, especially in Islamic history. One of the good things about Dr. Alviri in Hausa is that he has worked on new methods and new theories in historiography. He has published several books on Islamic civilization and Islamic history. And today, I just leave the floor to him to talk about the continuous growth of Shiite sub-civilization. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. من اجازه میخوام که بحثم رو به زبان فارسی ارائه بدم و خوشحالی خودم رو از اینکه توفیق حضور در این جمع علمی رو پیدا کردم ابراز می‌دارم. با اجازه از هزار محترم، اساتید محترم، رئیس محترم جلسه، بحثم رو با عنوان بالندگی خرد تمدن شیعی ارائه میدم. پیش از ورود به بحث چند مقدمه رو باید عرض بکنم. خیلی کوتاه از این مقدمه ها عبور میکنم تا به اصل بحثم برسم. مقدمه اول این هست که تمدن پیشین اسلامی مثل همه تمدن ها یک پدیده اجتماعی پیچیده، چند لایه، چند وجهی و تشکیل شده از اجزای مختلفه. این تمدن از نظر اقلیمی در پهنه‌ای وسیع از جنوب فرانسه تا شرق آسیا دامن گسترده بود و به آسانی میتوان تنوع نژادی، سرزمینی، زبانی، فرهنگی، اندیشگی و مذهبی رو در اون مشاهده کرد. بدون تردید یکی از جریان‌های برجسته اندیشه‌ای و مذهبی در این تمدن جریان شیعی است. مقدمه دوم من به مسئله خرد تمدن برمیگرده. طبعا در این فرصت محدود در پی بحث مفصل درباره مفهوم خرد تمدن نیستم، اما خرد تمدن ها همان تمدن ها هستند، اما در مقیاسی کوچکتر از نظر زمانی و یا از نظر پراکندگی جغرافیایی. بنابراین یک خرد تمدن هرچند میتوان اون رو متمایز از یک تمدن دید و میتوان وجوهی رو برای تمایز یک خرد تمدن از خرد تمدن دیگر و یا یک خرد تمدن از کلیت یک تمدن میتوان در نظر گرفت، اما از یاد نباید ببریم که خرد تمدن ها ذیل و در پوشش یک تمدن قرار میگیرند. مثلا ما خرد تمدن‌های صفوی، عثمانی و مغولی هندی رو اینا خرد تمدن می‌دانیم. اینها سه رویکرد متفاوت داشتند، اما همه در مجموعه تمدن اسلامی قرار می‌گیرند. نکته سوم این هست که تشیع و شیعیان رو میتوان یا جریان شیعی رو میتوان یک خرد تمدن نامید، برای اینکه مبانی اندیشه‌ای ویژه این جریان، وسعت جغرافیایی پیروان این جریان، زیست اجتماعی متفاوت پیروان تشیع به ویژه از نظر آیینی و مناسکی و آداب و رسوم، معماری شهری متفاوت و مانند اینها ویژگی‌هایی به اونها داده که میشه اینها رو از بقیه متمایز دید. مقدمه چهارم من به تمدن پیشین اسلامی برمیگرده که تمدن پیشین اسلامی رو باید یک تمدن، اینکه آیا می توانیم رو تمدن پایان یافته بدانیم یا نه، یه پرسش بسیار مهمی است. پرسش زنده‌ای هم هست، جا داره درباره‌اش صحبت بشه. 3 دیدگاه در این باره وجود داره، باز فرصت نیست من به تفصیل در این باره صحبت بکنم. برخی بر این باورند یا لازمه افکارشون این هست که چنین باوری داشته باشند که تمدن قبلی پایان یافته. اونهایی که از خلق و ایجاد و آفرینش یک تمدن جدید اسلامی سخن میگن چنین باوری دارند یا باید داشته باشند. برخی دیگر بر این باورند که تمدن قبلی باقی است اما نیازمند ترمیمه، نیازمند بازسازی است. اونهایی که از احیاء تمدن قبلی یا بازسازی تمدن قبلی حرف میزنن لازمه فکرشون این هستش که تمدن قبلی رو پایان یافته ندانند. دسته سوم جوهره تمدن قبلی رو همچنان زنده میدانند و رکود و رخوت تمدن قبلی رو به مثابه مقاومت اون تمدن در برابر غرب و برای اینکه از بین نروند تلقی کردن. بنابراین میگن تمدن همچنان تمدن زنده است، اما در یک دوری به خاطر قدرت تمدن غرب کوشیده خودش رو نگه داره. این ستربنی و در واقع نازایی تمدن اسلامی نیست، مقاومتش در برابر تمدن غرب. این دیدگاه سنتگرایان عمدتاً همین. با این 3 دیدگاه، هر کدوم از این 3 تا دیدگاه رو در نظر بگیریم، این رو باید بپذیریم که حداقل اگر تمدن قبلی باقی هم مانده باشد، طبق نظر سوم، رونق تمدن پیشین اسلامی از دست رفته. تمدن قبلی دیگه رونق قبلی رو نداره و دیگه توان اثرگذاری قبلیش رو مثل سابق از دست داده. اینکه چرا چنین است بحث‌های بازم مختلفی رو میطلبه، من الان وارد این بحث نمیخوام بشم. نکته دیگر این هستش که من الان یه تقسیم بندی برای ادوار تمدن قبلی داشتم، ازش میگذرم، جز این که فقط اشاره باید بکنم که باید برای تمدن قبلی یک مرحله بندی در نظر گرفت: مرحله پیدایشش، مرحله تثبیتش، مرحله شکوفاییش، مرحله ایستایی، نه افول، ایستایی، مرحله جهش دوباره و خرد تمدن‌ها و بعد سرانجام مرحله از دست رفتن رونق قبلی. اینو می‌خواستم بیشتر صحبت کنم ولی به نظر می‌ترسم وقتم کم بیاد ازش میگذرم. ولی بالاخره یک فراز و فرودی رو تمدن قبلی طی کرده، حتی طبق نظر سومی که تمدن قبلی رو زنده میدانه. خب با این مقدمات حالا من میخوام به اصل بحث و دیدگاهی که مورد نظرم هست بپردازم. من حرفم این هست و برداشتم این هستش که برخلاف مسیر کلی تمدن قبلی اسلامی که دوران فراز و فرود رو طی کرد، خرد تمدن شیعی در بین این از منطق حرکت و منطق تحول تمدن اسلامی تبعیت نکرده. خرد تمدن شیعی همواره مسیر بالندگی داشته، هیچگاه رنگ افول به خودش نگرفته، هیچگاه رنگ سستی به خود نگرفته، چه در بعد اندیشه‌ای، چه در بعد آورده‌های تمدنی و تولید نظام‌های مختلف و آورده‌های مختلف تمدنی. از ابتدا تا به حال مسیر صعودی طی کرده. اگر در یک نمودار بخوایم در نظر بگیریم، این برداری که از همچنان به طرف بالا حرکت میکنه، برخلاف تمدن قبلی که به اوج رفت و به سمت پایین بعد گرایش پیدا کرده. خرد تمدن شیعی همواره سیر متعالی داشته. یه 5 مرحله رو من برای خرد تمدن شیعی در نظر گرفتم که خیلی کوتاه به 4 مرحلهش که به تاریخ برمیگرده جز مرحله کنونی اشاره میکنم و سعی میکنم این دیدگاهم رو یک مقدار در باقی مانده وقتم توضیح بدم. یک مرحله اول مرحله است که از ابتدای شکلگیری شیعه ها رو از هر وقت که بدانیم تا روی کار آمدن آل بویه میشه در نظر گرفت. این به لحاظ تاریخی تقریبا با دوران حضور، عصر حضور معصومان علیهم السلام و عصر غیبت صغرا برابری میکنه. محدوده سالهای 320 تا 334 قمری رو در نظر بگیریم. از ابتدا تا این دوره تقریبا 3 قرن و یکی دو دهه. در این دوره شیعیان به تولید زیرساخت‌های فکری و فرهنگی و تولید محتوای لازم برای تمدن سازی پرداختند. به خاطر حضور معصومان در این دوره، احادیث در این دوره پدید آمدن و شکل گرفتند. احادیث تنها احادیث فقهی نیستند، تنها احادیث اخلاقی نیستند. این احادیث در بردارنده موضوعات مختلف حتی در زمینه علمی هستند. مهمترین و قدیمترین جامع روایی شیعی الکافی در این دوره تدوین شد. شیعیان در این دوره تجربه حکومت‌های محلی کوچک رو داشتند با گرایش‌های مختلف شیعی. فقط اینجا شیعی اثناعشری منظورم نیست. دولت ادارسه ادریسیان در این دوره شکل گرفت. علویان طبرستان در این دوره بودند. شروع حکومت بنی رسی از این دوره بود که حالا بعد ادامه پیدا کرد، در دوره‌های بعد هم بودند. تشکیلات اجتماعی به نام سازمان وکالت یک تجربه مهمی است در مدیریت اجتماعی در این دوره پدید آمد. حتی از منابع تاریخی مثل تاریخ یعقوبی، یک پایان‌نامه در این زمینه من راهنمایی کردم، میتونیم دیدگاه عمومی شیعیان رو درباره مسائل عمرانی و شهرسازی و مانند اینها به دست بیاریم. دوره نخست دوره هویت یابی شیعیان بود. دوره دوم که از روی کار آمدن آل بویه شروع میشه تا سقوط بغداد به دست مغولان تا 656 رو در بر میگیره. در این دوره شیعیان اولا پراکندگی جغرافیایی خیلی بیشتری پیدا کردند. از نظر حکومتی یک دستگاه خلافت، یعنی بالاترین ساختار حکومتی که میشه تصور کرد در جهان اسلام، با رویکرد شیعی خلافت فاطمیان در این دوره شکل گرفت. دولت‌های مستقل شیعی ما در این دوره داریم مثل بنی مزید. دولت‌های نیمه مستقل شیعی داریم مثل آل بویه. جنبش‌های شیعی زیادی داریم مثل اسماعیلیه و دیگر گرایش‌هایی که بودند تا پیش از قدرت یافتن. پدیده داریم که من اسم اون رو گذاشتم دولت فرد، دولت‌های در سایه. جایی هستن که شیعیان حکومت دستشون نیست اما بسیار در حکومت مؤثر هستند. در 3 خلیفه آخر خلافت عباسی از زمان الناصر لدین الله تا آخرین خلیفه همه وزرا شیعه بودند. از ابن قصاب گرفته تا ابن القمی که این شرح نحو و بلاغه معروف ابن ابوالحدید در زمان او و با حمایت او نوشته شد، مسئولین اصلی و متولیان امور در دستگاه خلافت عباسی شیعیان بودند، ولی یک فرد شیعه در مقام وزیر چنین نقشی رو ایفا می‌کرد. خاندان‌های مهم شیعه در این دوره بودن مانند آل فرات و ساختار اجتماعی دیوان نقابت هم مال این دوره است. اینا همه تجربه‌های تمدنی به حساب میاد. در علمای بزرگ شیعه 3 تاشون در این دوره هستند. حالا باز وقت نیست معیار این علمای بزرگ بگم کیا هستن. ما اگه کلا 7 تا 8 تا عالم شاخص شیعه داشته باشیم، شیخ صدوق، شیخ مفید و شیخ طوسی در این دوره میزیستند. ابن شهرآشوب کتابی داره به نام معالم العلما. در این کتاب از 948 عالم شیعی نام برده که 365 نفر از اینها نویسنده بودن، صاحب اثر بودن، مؤلف بودن. 1368 کتاب در کتاب معالم العلما ازش یاد شده، یعنی تا در واقع این چند قرن ابن شهرآشوب 588 قمری است در قرن ششم میزیست، تا نیمه قرن ششم از 1368 کتاب که به دست شیعیان نوشته شده نام برده شده که از اینها 322 کتاب مربوط به فقه، 248 کتاب مربوط به کلام، 200 کتاب مربوط به تاریخ و سیره و 16 کتاب مربوط به علوم طبیعی است. در این دوره تأسیس مدارس مستقل شیعه رو ما در این دوره داریم. ساخت و تعمیر آرامگاه امامان شیعه عتبات و آرامگاه امامزادگان بقاء متبرکه در این دوره است. بنابراین دوره دوم رو من دوره قوام تمدنی شیعیان و تثبیت تمدنی شیعیان میخوانم. دوره سوم که از زمان ایلخانان شروع میشه تا اول صفویه، خب در این دوره نیز ما در عرصه های سخت شاهد باز تعمیر و عمران آبادانی خیلی زیاد عتبات، در بناهایی مثل گنبد سلطانیه، ساختمانهایی مثل رصدخانه مراغه به لحاظ ساختمانیش و ساختمان مساجد و ساختمان مدارس رو شاهد هستیم. نهادهایی مثل دارالسیاده و مدرسه سیاره برای اولین بار در این دوره ساخته شد. در 22 شهر از شهرهای ایران در این دوره مدرسه شیعی تأسیس شد. در عرصه فرهنگی به هم آمیختگی تشیع با تصوف و اینکه عملاً تشیع تصوف رو در درون خیش به اصطلاح جا داد، حالا صرف نظر از اینکه این کار هوشمندانه صورت گرفت یا نه و با تبعات و تحلیلاش من کار ندارم، اما قوت فرهنگی شیعیان در عرصه فرهنگی بود که یک جریان بسیار مهم و اثرگذار در محیط اجتماعی رو در درون خیش جای داد. بازخوانی اندیشه سیاسی شیعی در این دوره صورت گرفت و دولت‌های شیعی که گرایش شیعی آشکارتری داشتند مثل سربهداران و مرعشیان در این دوره پدیدار شد. بنابراین من دوره سوم رو دوره گسترش نقش تمدنی شیعیان نامیدم. دوره چهارم که از عصر صفویه شروع میشه تا پیش از پیروزی انقلاب اسلامی ادامه پیدا میکنه، این دوره به دلیل حضور صفویه و خدماتی که کردن که الان فرصت و چون همه میدانن که من وارد بحث نمیشم، در ابعاد مختلف علمی و فرهنگی و شهرسازی و معماری چه در جنبه‌های نرم و چه در جنبه‌های سخت نقش بسیار زیادی داشتن. دوره چهارم دوره دولت تمدن سازه. شیعیان در این دوره یک دولتی که میتواند یک خرده تمدن درست بکنه، یک خرده تمدن رو مدیریت بکنه رو تجربه کردن. بر این اساس میخوام باز بگم که به روشنی میتونیم ببینیم که منطق تحول خرده تمدن شیعی از منطق فراز و فرود تمدن اسلامی تبعیت نکرده و تابع ظرفیت‌ها و قابلیت‌های ویژه خودش بوده. بنابراین تکرار میکنم که شیعیان همواره از نظر تمدنی یک مسیر بالنده‌ای رو طی کرده اند. اگر در عصر صفویه یک دولت تمدن‌ساز شیعی روی کار آمد، در تجربه بعدی که تجربه انقلاب اسلامی است می‌بینیم که خود اصلا فکری که در درون این حکومت وجود داره و نظام‌های مختلفی که در این حکومت وجود دارند هم می‌کوشند از آبشخور معرفتی و فکری و فقهی شیعه الهام بگیرند. از این نظر باز با عصر صفویه فرق می‌کنه، یک گام به جلوتر نهاده شده. من این رو می‌خوام در واقع به عنوان آخرین جمله‌ام عرض بکنم که توجه به این واقعیت به نظر من در فهم تحولات علمی و فرهنگی کنونی جهان اسلام میتونه خیلی مؤثر باشه. حتی در مواجهه سیاسی با آنچه در جهان اسلام امروزه میگذره توجه به این واقعیت میتونه مهم باشه. شیعیان به لحاظ تمدنی تجربه مهمی رو پشت سر گذاشتن و اکنون میکوشند در شرایط کنونی اون تجربه رو کمال ببخشند. به این نکته بسیار بسیار مهم باید توجه کرد که آنچه بیان میشه از این خاستگاه هستش که شیعیان به عنوان بخشی از پیکره امت اسلامی چنین اقداماتی رو انجام دادن و اکنون باز در پی افزایش سهم و نقش آفرینی تمدن خودشون هستن، تمدن اسلامی هستن. شیعیان به عنوان گروهی از مسلمانان در برابر گروهی دیگر چنین نکردند. اکنون نیز شیعیان و بنده که این گزارش رو میدم نمیخوام بگم شیعیان به عنوان گروهی متمایز از دیگر گروه‌های اسلامی، خیر، گروهی در کنار دیگر گروه‌های اسلامی و البته به لحاظ رویکردی متمایز، اما به عنوان بخشی از پیکره امت واحد اسلامی این حرکت رو انجام دادن و اکنون هم چنین هستند. من صحبتم رو با این جمله به پایان میبرم که بر اساس آنچه ذکر شد به نظر میاد سهم تمدنی شیعیان در تمدن نوین اسلامی که در حال شکل گیری است اکنون میتواند بیش از قبل باشه و باید منتظر بود که سهم آفرینی شیعیان در تمدن جدید اسلامی به عنوان گروهی از مسلمانان در کنار دیگر گروه‌ها و به عنوان بخشی از پیکره امت اسلامی بیش از قبل باشه. از اینکه تحمل کردید در عرض بنده رو صمیمانه تشکر میکنم.
Thank you very much for sticking to the time. So I also thank you for giving this rather important argument about the Shia sub-civilization, that although within Islamic civilization, according to different theories of Islamic civilization, you still find the ups and downs. All agree that there were ups and downs. Sometimes there were times of decline. Sometimes we had growth. He argues that the Shia sub-civilization, which was part of the larger Islamic civilization, this particular sub-civilization was always experiencing growth, and he divided it into 5 stages, which I don't list at the moment. And he was trying to say that in all these 5 stages, you find growth. So at the time of the Q&A, we will get back to this, and we will especially try to find out what is usually meant by growth or decline, and whether those theorists of Islamic civilization could accept this argument in terms of what is particularly meant by decline in any particular civilization. So now let's go to the next talk by Professor Kazuo Morimoto from the University of Tokyo, Japan, who is an expert on the social history of Islamic Iran. He has worked a lot in different institutes in Japan, more particularly. And as you well know, Japan has this history of Islamic studies, a very strong history of Islamic studies. And I'm glad that we are having a person who is particularly focusing on Shi'ism and on Islam and Iran. The title of his work is Why Was Genealogy of the Prophet's Family Studied in the 12 Shi'i Centers in Iraq from the 12th to the 15th centuries. It's interesting to see how he has worked on that particular period. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Tofiqi, for your kind introduction. My name is Kazuo, and you may know that one of my compatriots, Kazuo Ishiguro, has just won a Nobel Prize of Literature, and she actually gave kind remarks of the Japanese Islamic studies. I'm not sure I can be the representative of any of these elements with this presentation with poor contents, but I will do my best. Because I'm projecting pictures on the screen, I stand, and because I have to look at the screen to organize my talk. I, of course, would like to thank my old friend, Sayyid Ali Mojani, who has taken all the troubles for bringing us here, and I'm very honored, and it's a great pleasure for me to give a talk here. My talk today is titled, Why Was Genealogy of the Prophet's Family Studied in the 12 Shi'i Centers in Iraq? I changed a little bit from the 13th to the 15th century. The slide doesn't move. Okay. My main research interest has been, for a long time, studying the profiles and the activities of the experts of the genealogy of the Prophet's family, that is the Alis, the descendants of Ali ibn Abi Talib, in order to elucidate their social and religious milieus. In other words, I'm engaged in socio-religious history of a scholarly discipline. I'm working on the people who wrote these genealogical works. This is a manuscript from an author from the late 15th century. Today, I come from Japan. I'm not, accustomed to this technology. Today, I will focus on a strong, enduring regional school of the experts of Arid genealogy. I would call them Arid genealogists hereafter at the 12 Shi'i centers of Iraq. By 12 Shi'i centers, I mean Najaf, Kufa, Hilla, and Karbala mainly, in the 13th to the 15th century. The question is why there was this strong regional school of Arid genealogists at that time and at that particular place. Of course, I will argue that there was some special reasons beyond the general relevance for the Arids among the 12 Shi'ites, which is, of course, the first answer we come up when we think of this question. This chart shows, this is a very concise chart showing representative genealogists based at 12 Shiite centers at the time. As you see, well, I can now move the slides, but I can't use the pointer. Okay, you see the point? There were two pivotal families of Arid genealogists. One was based at Najaf and Kufa, the other at Hilla and Karbala. Both families, both the Banu Abdul Hamid and Banu Fikhar, produced multiple naqibs, the heads of the local community of Alids at their respective cities. And in case of the Banu Abdul Hamid, we know that they were responsible for controlling the genealogy of the Arids residing in their cities for generations. And other genealogists shown in white characters were connected in one way or another by some kind of master-pupil relationship with the members of these two pivotal families. And all in all, these genealogists formed a tightly knit network of a scholarly network, and I think we can call them a school. All of them on this screen were Alids in their own descent, and they were 12 Shi'is. Because they are genealogists, it's not very easy to discern their confessional affiliation, but by synthesizing their marital relationship, kinship relationship, and master-pupil relationship, we can figure out that all of them were 12 Shi'is. And notably, many of them come from the elite strata of the 12 Shi'i community in Iraq of the time. As I said, the Banu Abdul Hamid produced many naqibs. The Banu Fikhar did the same thing in Hilla and Karbala. And we have people like Ghiyasuddin ibn Tawus from the Banu Tawus, Tajuddin ibn Muawiyah from the famous Hassani family of Banu Muawiyah. All these people were part of the elite strata of the 12 Shi'i community in Iraq at that time. So the genealogists were not just scholars, but they were also important figures within the community. I'd like to connect the research on the genealogists with the research on Shi'ism and the history of 12 Shi'ism. And I think I can connect my talk about these genealogists with the elucidation of the state of 12 Shi'ism in the 14th and the 15th century. That is, during the era of so-called confessional ambiguity. Confessional ambiguity is a concept that denotes the rights of the relevance for the Alids, and often also for the 12 imams among them, and the blurring of the borders separating Shi'ism and Sunnism. And it is often said that the phenomenon became prominent from Mongol period until around the 1500, when, of course, the Safavids got established, and the politics based on confessionalism became prominent. It is often argued that the phenomenon became dominant typically in the Persianate world, that is to the east of the Euphrates. And in the context of the Iranian history, this confessional ambiguity is often counted among possible favorable pre-existent conditions for the establishment of the Twelver Shi'ism as the so-called state religion under the Safavids. And in addition, when we talk about confessional ambiguity, it is mostly to the so-called Shiatization of Sufi orders, typically the Safavids, and also the Kublawis and the other Sufi orders, and other millenarian movements such as Nurbakhshia that we focus on, and we talk about confessional ambiguity within those organizations and movements. My question in this regard is the state of the Twelver Shi'i community during the time. So when we talk about confessional ambiguity, we talk about Sufi orders and millenarian movements, which are separate from so-called formal type of Twelver Shi'ism. What do we know about the history of Twelver Shiite community during the period? Of course, we talk about the active approach made by the Twelver Shi'i community in Iraq to the Mongol rulers of the Ilkhanate that culminated in the conversion of Orjaitu Khan in 1310. So their approach, of course, included overt sectarian propagation. But after that, when we look at the general exposition of the history of Shi'ism, the next topic is the move of the scholarly center from Hilla to Jabal Amil, Lebanon. And then after that, we talk less and less about the Twelver Shi'i community in Iraq. And then the Safavids come, and we say that well, in Iran, they didn't find enough jurists, so they had to bring scholars from Jabal Amil. But was the Twelver Shi'i community in Iraq and secondarily in Iran, was they dominant, dormant at that time? Were they sleeping and were they doing nothing? I think we can interpret the activities of the genealogists I showed in the chart as a facet of the Twelver Shiite activities in Iraq and Iran. The genealogists were engaged in the promotion of the interests of the Twelver Shiite community by helping their community highlight its allied facet, which was not Twelver Shiite at its face value, and which was more acceptable to a wider range of Muslims because it was the era of confessional ambiguity. In other words, I would argue that they represented the Twelver Shi'i community's pursuance of a part of its elite strata of the community's interest by highlighting its special links with the allies, not through overt sectarian propagation, as they did when they converted Orjaitu Khan. At home, they were working for the prosperity of the community in Iraq. At those four centers. And away from home, some of the genealogists were trying to penetrate the then centers of power more positively. Of course, again, to promote the interest of their sectarian community. I forgot to mention one thing. In this chart, there are two genealogists shown in English, how can I say? Bahatte Koloft in yani Char Chubesh Bahatte Koloft has. These genealogists were from the Twelver Shi'i centers in Iraq, but they moved away from Iraq, and their venues of activities were quite far away, as I will explain it later. So, at home, in Iraq, what we have to pay attention to is the importance of the two arid shrines, Najaf and Karbala, controlled by the 12 Shi'i community at that time, and of course now too, as a loss of supra-confessional patronage, which benefited the confessional community, confessional 12 Shi'i community, but not primarily as such. So there was this 12 Shi'i community which controlled the two arid shrine cities, and they could attract the patronage even by Sunni rulers and Sunni dignitaries because of the reverence for the alids, which actually superseded the sectarian or confessional borders. Let's take an example of Ghazan Khan, who I think was not Shi'i. He built a Dar al-Siyada, a hospice exclusively targeted at Sayyids in Najaf, along with Sufi Khanqa. And he also dug a canal connecting the Euphrates with Karbala in the city of Karbala. And some of the part of the proceeds from the canal, or the proceeds from the agricultural lands which were enabled by the canal, were destined, he ordered that the proceeds would go to the Sayyids in Karbala. When he visited those shrine cities, there were at least twice, two occasions at which he visited the shrine cities. He distributed a large sum of donations among alids living there. So the patronage by the Sunni rulers and dignitaries on the 12 Shi'i community was centered on the alid aspect of the community to the shrines and the alids living at those shrine cities. My opinion is that because of this situation, the credibility of the alid nature of the shrine cities was of critical importance for the 12 Shi'i community, and that led to the study of alid genealogy and family history even among the elites of the community. I think it's also useful to mention two books in this regard. One is the Farhatul Ghali, the famous book written by Ghiyasuddin ibn Tawus, who happens to be also an alid genealogist. Ghiyasuddin ibn Tawus tried to prove that Najaf was actually the burial place of Hazrat Ali, in contradiction to the oppositions among some Sunnis who said that no, Ali was buried somewhere else. That, in my view, represents the same kind of effort to make the alid facet of the community and the shrine cities more authentic. I would also argue that Al-Allama Hilli also wrote a book. What was the title? Ad-Dala'il al-Burhaniya, based on Ghiyasuddin ibn Tawus's book. Away from home, so I will talk about those itinerant genealogists who went out from the Shiite community in Iraq. I think that these genealogists can be regarded as the advance guard to penetrate the centers of power in order to promote the interests of the 12 Shi'i community. There were two genealogists in the chart that I said went out from the community in Iraq, far away from there. One was Sharafuddin ibn Abdul Hamid al-Husayni, who was a member of the Banu Abdul Hamid of Najaf and Kufa, to which I referred to earlier. My research has clarified that this Sharafuddin ibn Abdul Hamid was present at Urjaytu's court in 1305. So it's quite probable that he was engaged in the Shiite activities to convert OJ to 5 years later. But this same person was present at the court of Uzbek Khan of the Golden Horde in the early 1330s and was clearly playing the role as a religious guide to the Khan. He was called Ata, actually, father by the Khan. All these things are reported by Ibn Battuta in his travelogue. The second genealogist in the chart was Jamaluddin ibn Inaba al-Hassani. He was most probably, without doubt, from Hilla, but he moved at one point to Iran and Transoxiana, and he dedicated books to different patrons, but those patrons include Timur, the founder of the Timurid dynasty, and Ibrahim Sultan, Timur's grandson, who was the ruler of Fars. So, and he died, according to reports, in 1424 in Kerman. There are 3 more genealogists who moved away from the Iraqi Twerba Shiite community to have activities elsewhere. The first 2, I can't go into detail here, but the first 2 here had very similar profiles with Sharafuddin ibn Abdul Hamid and Ibn Inaba. The last one, whom I have found recently, was a little bit earlier. He was from the first half of the 13th century, and he was a Najafi, Ibrahim ibn Yahya ibn Baluh or something. I don't know how to read this spelling, but I found him in Cairo as a resident of the Marqad of Sayyid Skaina, and he was clearly one of the promoters of the grave visitation at Al-Kharafa, arid graves and non-arid graves. These genealogists who went out from the Twerba Shi'i community, again, were all alids, and minute study of their profiles show that they belonged to one and the same enduring Twerba Shi'i community. Ibn Inaba, for example, knew the grandson of Sharafuddin ibn Abdul Hamid. He met Ibn Abdul Hamid's grandson in Samarkand, and he met other scholars that I mentioned in Samarkand too. So in this way, it's clear that they belonged to a kind of quite extended Twerba Shi'i community. And as the cases of Sharafuddin ibn Abdul Hamid and Ibn Inaba shows, we can testify apparent propensity, inclination to approach the then centers of political power, Uzbek Khan, Timur, Ibrahim Sultan. And importantly, when we study them, there is no sign of outright overt sectarian propagation. Again, it appears that they served those rulers as the experts of arid genealogy and matters related to arid, not as Twerba Shi'i scholars. So the same logic is going on here. I'd like to name this phenomenon of the genealogists approaching the then centers of the political power as covert sectarianism, in contrast to the overt propagation of the confessional beliefs and teaching in the era of confessional ambiguity. So my talk was about this. I mean, there was a school of genealogists at the Twerba Shi'i centers in Iraq during the age of confessional ambiguity, and I argue that that represented activities by the Twerba Shi'i community in Iraq, and then with their network to pursue the interests of their community through highlighting their arid, not Twerba Shi'i aspect. One last question might be if those genealogists can be regarded as the sleeper agents of the 12 Shi'i community. Perhaps yes. When Sultan Hussein Baykara of the Timurids, at the first of his reign in 1369, decided that coins struck in the name of 12 imams and the khutbah read by the name of the 12 imams, one of the instigators or the advisors Sunni sources refer to is named Sayyid Abul Hasan or Hasan Karbarai, again Sayyid from Karbala. Although we don't know anything about the profile of this person, maybe this person also belonged to the same community, network. Thank you very much for your attention. Oh, this is my last slide. Cherry blossom from Japan.
Thank you very much. خب من یه خلاصه‌ای به فارسی بگم، شما هر جا من اشتباه کردم اصلاح کنید.
خواهش میکنم.
یک دوره هستش از زمان مغول تا قبل از صفویه که آقای جعفریان بهشون میگه سنی های 12 امامی. در این دوره ایشون میگن confessional ambiguity، ابهام عقیدتی. به خصوص حوزه ایران افرادی بودند که به حضرت امیر علیه السلام و ائمه علیهم السلام ارادت و علاقه خاصی داشتن، ولی شیعه نبودند، یعنی سنی بودند و به ائمه ارادت داشتن. ایشون میگه که اون زمان مرکز فقاهت هم به تدریج از عراق به جبل عامل منتقل شده بود، به طوری که خب زمان صفویه از جبل عامل علما اومدن ایران. خب ما در مورد ایرانی‌ها یه چیزایی میدونیم، در مورد جبل عامل هم میدونیم تو عراق چه اتفاقی افتاده. همزمان میبینیم که تو اون زمان عراقی‌ها هم نسبنامه‌های زیادی داشتن و ایشون ادعای مهمش اینه که نسبنامه نویسی که اونها هم نه به عنوان شیعه اثناعشری، گرچه خودشون شیعه اثناعشری بودن، ولی به اسم علوی‌ها این نسبنامه ها رو می نوشتن و می گفتن که ما نسبمون به حضرت علی علیه السلام برمیگرده. این شیوهی بوده که اون شیعیان عراق ازش استفاده می کردن تا خودشون رو به اون دستگاه قدرت نزدیک بکنن و کار ایشون بررسی نسبنامه هایی بوده که در اون زمان شیعیان می نگاشتن. خب از جهات زیادی جالب هستش که ایشون به اون دوره خاص و به این گروه نسبتاً فراموش شده میپردازن و حالا ما بعداً در بخش پرسش و پاسخ سوالات شما رو هم در این باره میشنویم. خب now it's just a minute. It's with great honor and pleasure that I introduced Dr. Andrew Newman, Chair of Islamic Studies at the University of Edinburgh, Scotland. I'm sure you're familiar with his great research on the schools of Hadith in Baghdad and Qom, a very well-versed research which is very useful for scholars. He has also written on Safavid era and the development of Shia in the Safavid era. He is a very important scholar of Islamic studies and Iran. But now I just leave the floor to him to talk about the early responses to al-Hayra. Thank you very much.
About whom were you talking? About این بنده خدا که؟ نه باور نمیشه دیگه. خیلی خجالت میکشه دیگه. معذرت میخوام به زبان فارسی که صحبت نمیکنم چون فارسی هم یک کمی هم ضعیف شده. با اجازه شماها خواهش می‌کنم به زبان انگلیسی از زبان انگلیسی استفاده بکنم سر این سشن دیگه که. I'd like to thank the
simultaneously translated, so please.
Okay, then they're going to have trouble.
Okay.
I'll stick with the English.
Okay.
حاضری؟ باشه. Thank you very, very much to the organizers of this conference who really have taken an awful lot of trouble to bring both in Bandar Khoda, but also all the people here and handle all the logistics. To His Excellency the Ambassador and to the Cultural Council. Thank you very, very much for doing all this work. This actually can be seen better from the back. So if you will, I like in class to sort of dance around, make sure the students are awake that way. There's no guarantee, but it helps if one dances around just a little bit. So I'm going to dance around a little bit and also then use the pointer. Thank you also for your very kind works about my books. I don't think they necessarily translate very well into Persian because the arguments I have are directed to people in the field. And so the context in which I am working possibly doesn't go too terribly well. The engagement I have with people is they often wonder why it is I'm working with the Hadith, why I find the Hadith work so fascinating, when most of my undergraduates, but certainly even some of the master's students and even the postgraduates say, why are you doing this? It's so dry and so boring. But in fact, I find it absolutely fascinating, and I like to work with the Hadith, not on the question, may I say, of the question of authenticity. This is a study, a discussion, a debate that we get in Sunni Hadith studies that, as I've tried to say in several fora, and, oh, sorry, wrong one. Jello, there we go. In several fora is, to use a highly acclaimed academic word, boring. It's boring. It's a boring argument to just go kind of round and round. It is authentic. It's not authentic. It's boring, has no regulation. It's a circular argument. And one of the jobs of academics is not to be boring. And it's not to repeat the same sort of thing. It's to sort of try and go ahead. So I try in these discussions, especially the earlier discussion, with which I'm delighted that anybody at all, anywhere, especially in this room, might possibly be familiar, but again, because the audience is a Western audience, to say, let's not look at that question, it doesn't go anywhere. Let's rather look at the compendia themselves and see what those compendia, those collections, tell us about what the compiler, not the author, and often in Western languages we make a distinction. We say the author of the hadith. Of course, that's not the right word. This is the compiler, the collector. What was in his mind as he decided to choose from a huge number, innumerable number of texts, and put them in this particular collection? It reveals an agenda. It reveals a concern that compiler, by selecting these particular texts over the many others, was trying to address, and those are quite specific. And to some extent, through historical work, but also through the compilation itself, we can try and get a handle on what that particular agenda was. So what I think is interesting then is looking at the collections which key figures in Shi'i history have assembled over that history, and what these collections can tell us about that history, if we ask some really good questions about them and listen very carefully for the answers. And today I want to discuss a work with some of the works of Sheikh Saduq. There is an awful lot of material that he did. We, of course, usually in the West especially think of him in terms of al-Faqih, but in reality, his other compilations, if you add them all up, they are at least as full of hadith as al-Faqih itself. And in my view, have different agendas. Al-Faqih had its particular agenda. These other compilations also had their overlapping, but also quite distinctive agendas, which I think if we pay attention to them, try and find also something out about Sheikh Saduq, and try and find also something about the time period in which he's living, we can then begin to understand what it was that concerned him at the time, and in that understand something about the nature of the Shi'i community internally, on its own terms. This is how the community was having debates and discussions dealing with certain particular issues. For this particular audience, I don't really need to say all that much about Sheikh Saduq, but forgive me, I've written it down here, so you're stuck. I'm going to have to tell you something that you probably already know. The Sheikh was born in Rome about 918 Miladi. His birth was said to have been blessed by the hidden Imam, and his father, of course, had journeyed back to Iraq to ask for a son. Sheikh Saduq, or Ibn Babawayh, studied with his father, who died just before the Buyids entered Iraq, and of course with several of al-Khulani's students as well, including Ibn Khalaway. Ibn Babawayh is especially interesting because he was of that first generation of the faithful who knew nothing at all other than the absence of the Imam. First generation. His father, of course, knew that period, was in that period, as was Khulani himself. But Ibn Babawayh didn't know that particular time. He traveled a lot, an awful lot, comparatively more so than did the compiler of al-Kafi. Sheikh Saduq went all over. I love some of these maps because they're colored, and students like colored maps, so I put them. This is very low tech compared to my 23-year-old daughter. She has little coffee cups dancing across the PowerPoints and stuff. This is just very basic stuff. But again, if you look at the extent of the empire, the lands of the caliphate, as it were, Ibn Battuta, to be sure, was in the east, but nevertheless well-traveled and well-versed in many of those areas. Though born in Qom, sometime between 949 and 957, he moved to Ray, made several trips to Khorasan, of course, traveling as far as Transoxiana, southern Uzbekistan, and Samarkand. He said also to have visited Gorgan and Astrabad. To the west, he was in Hamadan and Kufa. We can date some of these visits, as well as Baghdad and the Hijaz. And of course, Ray is said to have been his main residence, but he did continue to travel throughout his life. And again, we pay most attention to him in terms of his singular collection, but of course he did a lot of other material as well. And my argument here, as in the first couple of, in the first book as well, was pay attention to these on their own terms, ask these questions on their own terms, and see what we can come up with in terms of what we felt were the compiler's concerns. And although we talk about the 4 books compiled before the Seljuks came into Baghdad, as a lump, they're all the same, the 4 books. In fact, the agendas are really very different, collection to collection. And if we analyze each of them on their own turn, which is ultimately I'd like to do more scientifically, I think we can tell something about the changing nature of the community and the changing nature of the ulama and their concerns about the community. There we go. So the first one which I really only have time to do 2 today, is the Kamal ad-Din, which is arranged in 58 chapters in 2 sections and contains over 580 traditions. And rather as my first book, I'm doing what the British would call a rather anorak sort of thing to do. That's not going to be translatable. I don't think you... It's kind of when the sun is shining outside and it's nice and warm, that 1 or 2 days in Scotland where this is the case, where am I? I'm inside looking at the hadith texts. And the British would say that's an anorak thing to do. Why would anybody want to do that when in Edinburgh, the 2 days a year when it's sunny, you're not outside? Because I find it fascinating. So I looked at all of these texts, I looked at the Isnad, and the thing in which I'm particular, of course, is not the imam from whom the text may be taken, but the first couple of people who figure in that. So I got it from so-and-so, who got it from so-and-so, who got it from so-and-so. I want to get the first, second, and maybe the third person to talk about his moving around between different places and his vision of who is a reliable translator for this body of texts. Now, the Kamal is dated to about 970, 71, possibly as early as 964. And of course, its title is taken from Quran 5:3. The Sheikh does us a great service by, in a rather lengthy introduction, giving us the answer to my question. Why am I doing this? What are my concerns here? And he reports firsthand. He's a firsthand window into his perception of the concerns of the community as it is scattered across the region. A series of believers who, as himself actually, because he's of that first generation after the onset of the Gheba, who are similarly thrown into a state of confusion. A lot of different translations for this particular term. And I in English, like confusion. I'm persuadable on something else, but at present I'm using the state, al-Hayra, the state of confusion. He was in Bukhara. He also refers to a Baghdadi, and he talks to another who queried Sheikh Saduq's reference to the unseen in Quran 12:102. He's also concerned in this period about other non-12er Shi'i discourses, which by implication suggest that those still are quite active. And he's concerned with how they are getting some ground, they're gaining some ground in this period of the confusion. So he is at pains to talk about the reality of the death of Ibn al-Hanafiyyah, as well as that of Musa, and in fact, the 11th Imam himself. And he's one of the ones who very helpfully refers to some of the works of Ibn Khibba in support of that are a rebuttal to the supporters of the imamate of Ja'far, who is the younger son of the 10th Imam. And of course, he devotes some time in that discussion to Zaydi objections as well, suggesting to me, at least by inference, if not absolute proof, that these things were reality. If he walked out his door in the morning, bang, these other kinds of discourses hit him in the face, and I've got to do something about this. This is what I'm going to put together to address these kinds of things. And indeed, he closed his introduction by referring to al-Nabakhti's various refutations, to Ibn Qibba's refutation of the Zaydis, in which in particular Ibn Qibba critiqued the Fatahiyya and the Karamatiyya. Just make sure I'm roughly where I am. Yeah, okay. Now, one way, it's not the perfect way, but one way of understanding the issues, the many issues with which he was concerned, but how he was ranking them, is the number of hadiths he inserts in any particular chapter on that particular problem. So if he's got a chapter on one thing with only one text, relatively, possibly not so important as one which has 36 texts. Then you're thinking he's going around saying, look, I've really got to nail this down. I've got to make it 150% sure that I've got the text to show the answer to this particular question. And so, again, a rather anarchy thing to do when everybody else is out in the one day of Edinburgh sun. I'm in there with my pocket calculator talking about the percentages of texts which appear in any given chapter. And of the first section's 254 texts, almost 70% of those 254 texts, 176, appear in 5 chapters. So you sort of say, of all the groups I'm going to look at, I'm going to zero in on these in particular, because he included an awful lot of texts in there. That suggests to me that he was paying these particular problems an awful great deal of attention. Chapter 22 contains 66 texts. That's the largest one. Chapter 24 is 36. 26 is 33. Chapter 21 has 23. Chapter 32 has 18, and so on and so on. If you go to section 2, with 332 texts, almost 70% again are found in 7 chapters. In chapter 33, that is the second part of section, 60 texts, which is the second largest chapter in the volume after chapter 22, have statements by Imam Jafar on al-Qa'im, his absence, and his being the 12th Imam, suggesting to me that there are still concerns that he needs to nail, that there were 12 Imams, and here's who they are. Still debates going on. I'm going to nail this with lots and lots of texts to show that this is the answer to that particular problem, and we're going to get over it. I've got some citations here. I want to leave some time for discussion, and I'm also a notoriously bad timekeeper, as my students remind me. I usually ask them to throw something rather heavy at me, sometimes a cup of coffee. Actually, yesterday they gave me somebody brought in a cup of coffee. I said, I'm just kidding, I'm just a joke. So you're going to throw something heavy at me. And if it's coffee, it has to be sealed. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. So again, we're looking at these particular ones. And the notion, for example, if you look at 33, chapter 45, and chapter 58, there's some good examples. But there's a particularly good text. The end of the Imamate is contrary to the truth. In other words, there were clearly people who were arguing that this is it, finished, tamam shad, khalas. No, that's not right. Not the case in the introduction. We're going to debate this at that particular time, and we're going to then talk about the texts in particular. Now let me go to, this should be number 7, bingo. And here in chapter 42, number 2, the 11th Imam shows his son to his companions and said, this is the guy. You can't get much more clear than that. You got doubts about that? Look, I have a text which proves this, which nails this argument 100%, and there it is. This is your sahib after me, and I leave him as my khalifa. Notice the use of the term, okay? Successor designate, but also a bit of a challenge implicitly, if not explicitly, to the political authority at the time. So not just a religious leader, but by implication, a political figure as well. He is al-Qa'im, so we've got these 2 terms right there in the same text. Lo, the world is filled with tyranny and oppression. When he comes forth, he will fill it with fairness and justice. Al-Ghaiba at-Tama is what's said in, and bang, you've nailed it. This is it. So we are now in this period. The big question is now settled. I've got this text. And we have a new text in the compilation in which the 12th Imam's birthday was cited as February in 256 or 870. The Wakala is discussed in this particular text as well. And again, then you've got this reference to the complete or the full occultation. This, I have to remind myself when I'm doing this, is at least a generation before Tusi's Kitab al-Ghaiba. A generation before that, you've got these concepts are on offer. And of course, the Tusi himself finished al-Ghaiba at the end of his life, after he'd done all that work on the Rajal, on the Hadith, on fiqh and stuff. And then finally, it's as if finally he looked back and said, now with all this preliminary work, I can write this book, Kitab al-Ghaiba. The summation of all the work that he had done is in that particular text. Now, I've also got, and again, this audience won't necessarily know, but you have Uyun Akhbar Rada, collected during earlier visits. There's 941 texts in there, collected during visits to Khorasan, finally assembled into the volume at the request of the vizier Sahib ibn al-Abad. The latter, actually, the vizier, is noted for his particularly Zaydi leanings. And in his poetry, some of which he addressed to pilgrims of Imam Hussein, he asked Sheikh Saduq to go out and recite some of this poetry. But he's also noted for his Mu'tazili sympathies. That is, he didn't like the texts. This is, but it's not sufficient. The texts are useful, but not sufficient. And so Uyun Akhbar Rada is speaking truth to power, making a contrary kind of an argument to someone who's interested in Zaydis, but also someone who's really not interested in texts. So, we put them to one side. And of course, the evidence for Sahib ibn Abad having these sort of Mu'tazili leanings is his appointment of the noted Sunni Mu'tazili scholar Abdul Jabbar, who died in 1024, so to be the chief judge in Ray and its environments. His hostility to reliance on the traditions by both Sunnis and Shi'is is well attested, and he remained in post until his patron's death in 995, which was 4 years after Ibn Babawayh's own death. The vizier himself is said to have clamped down on Sunni and Shi'i traditionists, including Sheikh Saduq himself. And if that's true, that crackdown by the vizier probably coincided with his appointment of Abdul Jabbar to that position. It must have been in that same sort of time period. So what's interesting about this text to me is the various confrontations between the Imam and the Caliph. These conversations in particular repay a great deal of attention, although they only comprise about 62 of the volume's 634 traditions. That's about 10%. As a foil, the vizier is the caliph. The vizier is the caliph. So he's making an argument, he's citing the imam, but it's a kind of a sideways, implicit criticism, implicit rebuttal of what the vizier is all about. In my view, if these 2 points are correct, and this is this question of truth to power, there we go. The Imam, again, making these rebuttals and addressing debates and stuff to the Caliph al-Ma'mun, just as Ibn Babawayh was making it to the vizier. So it's a trick. It's a trick. It's not a direct criticism. It's an indirect criticism with which I can get away, because this is the past. This happened an awful long time ago. It has nothing to do with the present. Oh, yes. In fact, it does. It does, in my view. Anyway, if these 2 points are correct, then he solved the problem of his day by textual analyses in any case. The problem of the Hayra was being successfully confronted, so much so that Ibn Babawayh had the confidence and courage by that time to establish to challenge the political authority. He had the courage of his convictions, having solved this problem for himself. So the compilation is his own working out, if you will. I don't do any maths or anything like that at all. I stopped at way before calculus and just did geometry. But they had proofs and theorems, and you got to show your work, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is kind of his showing his work to himself and to others and leaving this legacy. And in these particular instances, he solved the problem. And it is Uyun in particular that reflects his sense of self-confidence that followed on his efforts to move past the Hayra. And it was this legacy, I think, however, which over the course of subsequent history, all the way up into the Safavid periods, was much more limited, unfortunately, than we might necessarily think at first. That is to say, it's really good to have solved a problem based on a particular method, in this case relying on the texts. But how good is it if not so many people know about it? if not so many people know about it. And this is part of the challenges that set in into the community, which was referred to by the first speaker, in the immediate years, centuries in the aftermath of his death. So again, just to quickly recalculate what you were already talking about, is the Seljuks and the Mongols and the death of al-Bayt, all the way up to 1501. I've done, again, a very Anaraki thing. On the other day in Edinburgh, that it was very sunny, I again chose to stay in and do some compilations of material which are included as appendices in my Edinburgh University Press book, an introduction, not a very good, well-titled book, an introduction to 12-er Shi'ism. And what you have basically, and then I've got a few charts and then I'll finish, is basically a lot of texts were lost. And one way of being able to begin to identify this is to do what numismatic people who deal with coins do. You take a representative sample of any particular hoard, and then you extrapolate from that as to how many of the coins in that particular hoard were extant at any one given time. So on that Saturday afternoon when it was such a nice day, I hope this feeds seamlessly into this. Yes, it does. Bingo. Now, I won't pay too much attention to this because you can get the book and find it. What you find is if you look at these in terms of Miladi centuries, unfortunately, you can quickly see that virtually speaking, these aren't absolute figures. These are what I call in the book indicative. They are suggestive of the fact that there weren't a lot of these around in any particular period. 2 minutes, there we go. I'm going to, 10 seconds for each one. And I did a compilation of all the, of all the major texts. Go back. There we go, thank you. Here's al-Kafi, al-Faqih, Tahsib al-Akam, and al-Istibsar. And then I did it for Ibn Babawayh's work. And again, you can see noughts, 1, 2, 3, all the way up until the mid-17th century. And all of a sudden, in the mid-17th century, wow, lots of copies of the texts. 3 figures, 2 figures at least, where you're going in some cases from naught, or 1 or 2 or 3, over a number of centuries. This is manuscript copies, okay? It's not absolute. You can't quote the figures, but they suggest something. They suggest that there weren't very many of these around, easily accessible, until you get pretty much uniformly on all the texts at which I looked, until you get to the later 17th century, the latter 1600s. Here's some other standard works, which we all have wonderful editions coming out post-1979, and Nahaya, again, very few copies. Even Nahaya is not very well there. Khalaf al-Mabsut, Kitab al-Ghaiba, not. That doesn't mean absolute, it just means, relatively speaking, there weren't very many, in my view. A Tibyan, Qawaid al-Kam, some of Hilli's works. We know that Hilli's Rajal work, what we have is a khalasa. It's a khalasa because the real one's gone. We don't have it. So is Medidat al-Ilm from Sheikh Saduq, the 5th book, as it were, as attested. In fact, it was Sheikh Bahai's father who last saw it, as I recall. Someone could correct me. And then al-Bayt Majlisi sent some postgraduate students on a bursary to try and find it. And they went here and went there and other places, couldn't find it. So it was well gone by that time period. Where am I at now? Again, Khalasat al-Ahwal, Kashf al-Marad. Virtually, not positively. Don't take the numbers as absolute, take them as indicative, as suggestive. So the importance of the Safavid period was, and again I mentioned this in the Edinburgh University Press book, is that you see the recovery of these texts. They are, if you will, rediscovered. They're not absolute zero, but the few copies that are available are then handed on to people to make copies. And there's the patronage, the money, the interest in this, possibly because, again, as I outlined in the book, there's a whole series of debates that reignite, come back again in the early 1600s, and force people, if you will, to go back to the text. Just as Sheikh Saduq himself was forced to go back to the text to solve his particular problem, in the course of dealing with problems in the early 1600s, scholars went back to those texts and made copies of them. And of course, as you will well know, this audience, when one goes to do some of the texts, some of the key works in the field in the immediate post-79 aftermath, most of the manuscript copies which they're using date to the Safavid period. Of every 10, for example, 5, 6 are going to be Safavid period texts. There's always a few unknowns, Okay, but the ones you can nail are very often Safavid and post-Safavid texts, not so many ones from earlier, which kind of indirectly corroborates what I'm suggesting. There weren't a lot of those texts lying around. Now, it's true that Shahida Dovum and others quote from those texts, so they clearly had them, but in terms of widespread availability everywhere and hither and yon, again, they're not so available. So the question is, while the concepts distinctive to the faith, the answer to the question, as it were, was first formulated by Sheikh Saduq, or first discovered via his work in the text, all the way back there prior to 1055, the answer kind of got lost, as it were. And authoritatively, it comes back then only in the 1650s and on. And for those of you who don't know me, one of the things I do is I do this Shi'i news blog, and you're most welcome to sign up and join. Be delighted to have some more people on the list, which is now 720 or something like that. So to join up. And thank you very much. خواهش میکنم اختیار دارم خیلی زیاد.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Newman, for the very exciting paper. Now I offer a summary in Farsi. خب سوال ایشون دارن به این سوال پاسخ میدن، یعنی چند تا سوال در هم هست. یکیش این سوال هست که کسانی که مجموعه های حدیثی رو تدوین کردند چه دغدغه هایی داشتن. به عبارت دیگه بیش از این که ما بخوایم به این بپردازیم که محتوای اون احادیث چی هست، داریم به این میپردازیم که خود اون تدوینگران در چه قالب سیاسی و اجتماعی بودند و بعد چه کمکی به اون وضعیت کردند.
Sorry, just for taking some of your minutes. We are 4 persons in the background that we are trying our best really just to give you some insights into what is happening here in English, Farsi, Arabic and also in German. ما خیلی سعی خودمون رو داریم میکنیم که به 4 زبان متون رو برای شما ترجمه بکنیم. با این حال اساتیدی که صحبت میکنن یه کوچولو باید شاید شبیه سازمان ملل صحبت بکنن، به خاطر اینکه ترجمه همزمان از متون تخصصی کاری فوق‌العاده سخت هستش. So just to give you a background again, what we are doing is an extensive effort and try to, for us as non-clerics or as non-professionals in what is happening here, so we need a little bit of maybe air, so to have some steps, some pauses, some breaks that we can think of new sentences and combining them together. So with that speed, it's absolutely impossible for us to give the audience a little bit of what they have to understand. ببخشید وقتتون رو من گرفتم، فقط خواستم یه یادآوری بکنم که دوستان دیگه هم که در این دروس سخنرانی میکنن یه کمی به ما فرصت فکر کردن بدن. Vielen herzlichen Dank, sorry, dass ich jetzt gerade mal so ein bisschen Zeit von Ihnen nehmen soll. Das Problem ist, wir 4 Sklaven stehen da hinten und wir müssen gleichzeitig eine spontane Übersetzung geben. Also von daher, wenn gerade die Geschwindigkeit gleich so schnell wäre wie mein Sprechen, also wir werden da überhaupt null Ahnung und Möglichkeit haben, eben diese Texte in einer bestimmten Form mit vollem Umgang weiterhin zu übersetzen. Von daher, wir würden uns sehr freuen, wenn Sie uns ein bisschen Luft und Zeit geben, so ein paar kleine Pausen machen, wie wir dann gleichzeitig nochmal neue Sätze kombinieren, formulieren und weitergeben können. Herzlichen Dank, خیلی ممنون. Shukran. Sorry that I cannot speak Arabic, but please give us some time. Thank you very much.
خسته نباشید شما.
The best presentation.
بله، پس تدوین کنندگان مجموعه حدیثی چه دغدغه‌هایی داشتن؟ ایشون از نظر ایشون ما 2 تا مقطع مهم داشتیم در تاریخ تشیع که عقاید شیعه به صورت متمایز از گروه‌های دیگه مطرح شد. یکی زمان حیرت بوده با آثار مهمی که شیخ صدوق داشتند که کمال الدین رو ایشون اشاره کردن و همینطور کتاب الغیبه و اینکه ببخشید عیون و اخبار رضا، اینکه این آثار در پاسخ به چه افرادی گفته می شدن و با توجه به مسافرت‌های زیادی که شیخ صدوق داشته در مقطع‌های مختلف لازم بوده به افراد مختلفی پاسخ بدن. مثلا در کمال الدین ایشون میخوان با توجه به اینکه دوران حیرت هست وجود 12 امام رو ثابت کنن و از احادیث مختلفی در این باره استفاده میکنن، اینکه ما باید حتما 12 امام داشته باشیم و به این شکل، یعنی این افراد همون 12 امام هستن، به خاطر اینکه میخواستن پاسخ بدن به گروه‌های مختلفی که در اون زمان حضور داشتن و اشکالاتی رو مطرح میکردن، میخواستن به اونا پاسخ بدن. اما در عیون و اخبار رضا دغدغه‌های سیاسی متفاوتی هست، یعنی از یک طرف پاسخ به معتزله هست و از طرف دیگه هم انتقاد از وزیر هست که گویی ایشون در لباس امام رضا علیه السلام داره از وزیر که اینجا به صورت، یعنی صحبت‌های بین امام رضا علیه السلام و مأمون در واقع نشون دهنده انتقادهای خود او به وزیر هست. درست فهمیدم؟
از مال من بهتر.
خواهش میکنم. و اما بعد از شیخ صدوق ایشون میگه که ما میبینیم که آثار شیخ صدوق دیگه بعدش نسخه هایی وجود نداره، یعنی هست و ما میبینیم نقل قول ازش میشه در آثار مختلف، اما اونقدر زیاد نیست تا اینکه در دوران صفویه ناگهان میبینیم که تعداد زیادی نسخه از این آثار تولید میشه و ایشون میگه باز این مربوط میشه به دغدغه‌های سیاسی و اجتماعی که اون دوران شیعیان داشتن که میخواستن به عنوان یک گروه متمایز نشون بدن که ما عقاید متفاوتی داریم و باید حتما از گروه‌های دیگه جدا بشیم، که حالا ایشون آثار مختلفی از علما رو جمع‌آوری کردن که چطور نسخه‌های خطیش در یک دورانی خیلی کم میشه و بعد در عصر صفویه به حد زیادی می‌بینیم که خواهش می‌کنم. So now we have time for questions and answers to the 3 speakers. Unfortunately, due to the weather conditions, Dr. Ahab Badawi couldn't come here. He was on train, and it takes a while to get here. We don't have him yet with us. So we take the time for the question and answers. Please raise your hands. Yes, please. And please tell me to which speaker do you?
I have missed here at the time of the youths who came to power from Tabristan and Ulum. What did they do? They captured Baghdad.
Is that your question to him? To the all of us?
And one thing which is not directed is the rise of Shia belief at the end of Seljuks. And that was Haji Bertash in Anatolia. He was the first Sufi to introduce the Ja'fariya in his orders. And during the time of Tamur, there were a lot of Shias and Sufis, Naqshbandi, because the Shia, they're placed under the Seljuki Empire. And Shia belief was, did you understand me what I told you now? Mm-hmm. I would explain this in German as well if you like. Yeah. I mean, which I missed is the time of the youth. It is not again what happened during this time. They captured whole of Iran and even Baghdad. What happened during this time? And what happened after? The Seljuk were very tyrant. They praised the Shia, during this time the Shias had to seek help to some other places. Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to hear something about the period of Seljuks and after, post-Seljuk period.
Okay.
Yeah?
Your question was
if you
taken.
please
Thank
explain
you.
something about that.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you. So, anyone, yeah, about Seljuks? Yeah, you've done, yeah.
Well, I'm not quite sure if I could really figure out directly, no, not directly, well, exactly what you questioned. But as for the Seljuks, I think the current understanding is that the Seljuks were not quite anti-Shiite, except for the first period of their rule, especially in the 12th century, the 5th century, the 6th century, Hijri. There was this, interrelationship, not perhaps cordially, but peaceful, and peaceful interrelationship between the Seljuk authorities and the Shi'i communities in Iran and Iraq. For example, if you remember the book Kitab al-Naqs, where you see that the Shiites are paying lip service to the Seljuk authorities as the protector of the religion, and they, at least, superficially expected the patronage of the Seljuks too. So there is this dimension, I think. And you also mentioned Haji Bektash and Naqshbandiya. So this is totally a different story, and perhaps the story is too vast for me to continue, and I will pass on the baton to the two eminent professors.
I would just agree with this. I think that the Seljuks were...
Excuse me.
I
not agree to your point that they were not very oppressive in Shias in the last time, the Seljuks. Because the Shias, they took refuge under the Sufis, under Naqshbandi and others. And there they practiced their religion. This was totally forbidden for the Shias to practice their religion during the Seljuks, Al-Qarsalan and others. They were very tolerant. And Haji was the only brave person who, under the Seljuk, the later period of Seljuk, did practice Shia theology. Yeah? She was the first to introduce fiqh Jafariya. And I don't understand, how could it be?
Well, there is a book.
My ancestors lived in Pakistan and Delam, and they were the victims of Seljuks. Yeah? They migrated to India at the time of Ghaznavid, and they have the history. Yeah? So nobody, here explains why and how tyrant the Seljuks had been. Thank you.
Merci. Well, I would say that I would agree with Professor Morimoto that over the entire span of period that things were not as bad as has usually been said. But even with the Safavids, if there were certain lines during the Safavid period, we're accustomed now to red lines because we British, I'm not originally British, but I'm newly British, we have a foreign minister who talks a lot about red lines. We have red lines, everybody's doing red lines. There were lines which one could not cross. And so in the early Safavid period, for example, of the numerous, if you will, Shi'i sort of Sufi movements, which post-date Haji Bektash, but which take over, as you yourself discussed, that other period there, where there was a popularization of the faith. If you cross certain lines, then yes, you got yourself into trouble. And that, of course, did happen even in the Safavid period. But a number of these Sufi, Shi'i kinds of movements in the early Safavid period did reach practical accommodations with the Safavids, at which point they were tolerated and allowed to stay on. That wasn't a problem. I think, too, that what's interesting to me in this period is we have, in the balance of the field, an awful lot of discussion of the Sufi Shi'i discourse from, say, 1258, the fall of the Abbasids, to 1501. I was actually slightly more interested in the ulama, many of whom sort of get forgotten, aside from Shahida Aval and Dovum and the Hillis. What about everybody else? And in fact, the ulama carried on. They clearly had some access to some of the key texts, but not as much as one would happen. One and two, you were referring to the Kitab al-Naqd, it's clear too that Shia were tolerated in a number of the cities on the plateau. This is the time period really prior to the Safavids in which kind of Shi'i, the veneration of the Imams becomes popularized at a very great extent on the plateau, which paves the way for the rise of the Safavids as they build on that popular veneration. And that's at the popular level, but the ulama then are still there working away so that the two things come together around in the Safavid period. My argument is those two things don't really come together until about 100 years later than 1501. Because for the first 100 years or so, it's really not that firmly established, the position of the ulama and the popularization. They both sort of come together in the 1640s, 1650s, and so. But I think in reaction to that, I think there are lines, and if you cross those lines, yeah, you're out. That's right.
Excuse me, I think we should pay attention to different meaning of عذر میخوام من فارسی بگم راحت ترم. من فکر کنم دو تا مفهوم در واقع سلجوقی خلط شد. من از سوال ایشون اینجور برداشت میکنم که ایشون بین سلجوقیان ایران و سلجوقیان آناتولی خلط کردند. درباره سلجوقیان ایران وضعیت شیعیان در عصر سلجوقیان هرچند خواجه نظام الملک وزیر پرآوازه سلجوقیان دنبال این بود که میگه باید بگردیم هر جا قرمطی بیابیم از بین ببریم و مرادش از قرمطی اونجاگاه شیعیان بودن. هرچند خواجه نظام الملک وقتی که نظامیه بغداد رو ساخت اینقدر بر مذهبش پایفشاری داشت که تا بوابان و فراشان مدرسه رو هم نگهبانان مدرسه و مستخدمان رو هم باید شافعی باشند، اما در این حال همونطور که آقای دکتر گفتند برخی در این دوره سلاجقه ایران به شهادت صاحب النرس مولا جلیل قزوینی رازی مدرسه مثلا عزالملکی در این دوره در ایران ساخته شد. مدرسه شیعیان اثناعشری است. شهری مثل آوه بین قم و ساوه در این دوره مرکز شیعیان به حساب می آمد. اما در سلاجقه آناتولی بله، در سلاجقه آناتولی فشارهایی نسبت به شیعیان و علویان آورده شد. در اون دوره حاج بکتاش ولی خیلی نقش داشت. ما خیلی احترام قائل هستیم برای حاج بکتاش ولی و برای پیروانش، اما اجازه میخوام با این حرف شما مخالفت بکنم که او سبب شد فقه جعفری در اونجا باقی بماند. او روشی که او پیش گرفت برای باقی ماندن شیعیان و علویان این بود که الان نامی از علویان باقی مانده. فقه جعفری نزد خود الان علویان بکتاشی در این منطقه خودشون فقه ندارند، خودشون اعمال فقهی انجام نمیدن. بنابراین نمیتونیم بگیم سبب شد برای خودشون باقی نماند تا چه برسه برای دیگران. اما اینکه نام شیعیان رو در واقع گرایش کلی به شیعه رو سبب شدن که باقی بمانه، این رو من قبول دارم و میپذیرم. اما خیلی بیشتر از این نبود و بنابراین سهم حاج بکتاش ولی در ماندن نام علویان و گرایش به علی علیه السلام و امام رضا و امام حسین در حد اینها بود. خیلی بیشتر از این سهم نداشت.
خیلی ممنون. بفرمایید.
Professor Alviri, where I got my MA in Iranian University by his supervising, and Professor Andrew Newman and you and the audience. My question maybe is regarded to Professor Newman, that you solved the problem, maybe your question that arises in this session, but my question is that I wanted to know, you wanted to make a good connection between the time of the rising of this book and the environment that this book arose in that time. But another important question is that how can we find these books after 14 centuries? Besides that, we can find other scholars, other specialists, Islamic scholars, by other books. But meanwhile, just we can find Man la yahsuru al-faqih, Usul Kafi, or books. I think we can find a solution in what happened after 4 centuries in Safavid periods. What caused that just special books like this survive from other books. I want to get the point from your Majesty. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I actually discussed that at some length in the book, and because it's such an interesting question that you ask, I will get full of energy again, and then there will be a problem. But suffice it to say that in the later period, you had a series of debates which were reignited, only one of which was the famous Akhbari Usuli debate. But another one was, for example, on the legitimacy of Friday prayer during the time of the occultation of the Imam, who was to convene it and such. There were a large number of debates on that. And also in the 17th century, there was this anti-Sufi polemic, the Hadiqat Shia and Tahir al-Qawmi and others who were attacking the rise of popular Sufism in Isfahan. And over the course of the period from the 1640s until the early 1700s, the last 50 or 60 years of the Safavid period, if you compare all these works, the Friday prayer, the Akhbari Usuli discussion, and also the Tasawwuf discussion, you'll see an increasing recourse to the Hadith. My argument is, it's just an argument, but my argument is that's precisely because these texts, these compilations, and other sorts of rulings are becoming more available. If you contrast Hura al-Mali's Itna Sharia, for example, very late anti-Sufi polemic, with some of the earlier Sufi polemics, anti-Sufi polemics, you see that he is full of references to texts, but he's also full of references to various fatawi and such from people. So he now has those, as it were, at his disposal. Now, of course, he's coming from Najaf and Karbala, and so he would have had access at the specialized places there to some of those, but again, these are beginning to reappear all over. He might have brought some of these with him. He was also at the shrine, of course, in Mashhad, and so we can go back and look at copies that would have been produced at the time. So the answer, the short answer to the question is that there were a lot of arguments and debates going on, and that spurred a rediscovery. Just as, in fact, Sheikh Saduq was spurred on to make his compilations because of the problems that he saw around him when he walked out his door in the morning. So these are practical things. And I think in the West, the audience is, oh, these compilers really had nothing else to do that day, so they decided to just put this together. And my argument is, no, these were eminently practical problems that these scholars were trying to solve. They are personal responses to a context of questions and problems as they saw it. And therefore, they went out and they said, right, the way to do something about this is to answer it via the hadith. Let's go back, we say sometimes in English, to basics. Let's go back to the real. Don't listen to what I say, listen to what the Imam said. And of course, this is the stunning achievement of al-Umayyah Majlisi, who was living in that period of contention and strife, and put these all to one side and say, wait a minute, let's remember on whom we are centered. Let's get back to basics. And the result was Bahar, which is a testament to an effort to refocus everyone's attention on the hadith of the Imams and put aside their small differences and remember who they were, distinct, as you suggested, as a distinctive body. What makes us distinctive? And al-Umayyah Majlisi is the crowning achievement. So is Vafi, and if there's people out there, it would be really nice if somebody put together a critical edition of Vafi.
Yeah.
Somebody, please do that. It would be really useful.
Okay, thank you. بفرمایید شما. لطفاً خلاصه بگید حالا که سه تاست.
خیلی کوتاه.
چون وقت
در بخش اول اشاره کرده به موضوع خرد فرهنگ‌ها و خرد تمدن‌ها و تمدن‌ها. می‌دونیم که هر خرد تمدن یا تمدن دارای یک ساختاری است متشکل از سیاست، مذهب، اقتصاد، فرهنگ و اجتماع. و در ادامه به تشیع هم اشاره کرد به عنوان یک خرد تمدن. من سوال من این هست که آیا تشیع هم دارای همچین ساختاری هست؟ میشه همچین ساختاری براش تعریف کرد یا نه؟ در بخش دوم اشاره کردید به رشد تشیع در دوره‌های تاریخی مختلف. من میخواستم بپرسم که آیا میشه به عنوان نقطه اوج یک نقطه تقابل یا تفاهم بین مذهب تشیع و دیگر مذاهب در این مقاطع تاریخی تعریف کرد و احیانا اگر هست دلایلش چیست؟ موضوع سوم این هست که شما اشاره کردید به تقویت و رشد تشیع در منطقه جغرافیایی ایران در دوره‌های مختلف. سوال من این است که این یک نیاز اجتماعی بود که این توجه و رشد و تقویت صورت گرفت و می‌گرفت، یا اینکه نیازهای سیاسی و در واقع دستاندازی‌های ملی‌گرایی در این منطقه جغرافیایی باعث این تقویت می‌شد؟
تشکر میکنم از پرسش خوبی که مطرح کردن. یکی از شانس های اینا جزء وقت من حساب نکنم خانم دکتر توفیقی این هستش که آدم بر اساسی که نمیرسه در حین مقاله بگه بعدا ازش بپرسن و فرصت کنه در واقع مطالب گفته نشده مقاله رو بیان کنه. درباره پرسش اول من به جد معتقدم که بله، همونطور که اشاره کردید تو حرفام هم بود، یک خرده تمدن همه ویژگی‌های یک تمدن رو داره، همه ساختارها رو داره، حتی نظام‌ها رو داره در سیاست، فرهنگ، اجتماع، مسائل مختلف. فرق خرده تمدن با تمدن رو من فقط در قلمرو دیدم. گفتم یا قلمرو زمانی یا مکانی، جز این بقیه ویژگی‌ها رو باید داشته باشه و لابلای حرفان باز هم بود. مثلا فرض کنید در مورد تشکیلات من فقط اشاره میکنم، از نهاد وکالت شروع میشه، نقابت رو شامل میشه و بعد نهاد مرجعیت رو در زمان در واقع از شهید دوم به این طرف اواخر قرن تقریبا قرن دهم به بعد نهاد مرجعیت رو داریم. ساختار حکومتی تجربه از خرده حکومت محلی گرفته تا دستگاه خلافت که خلافت فاطمیان باشه، همه این تجربه ها در تجربه تمدنی شیعیان هست، بنابراین اینها رو کاملا دارن. درباره تشیع در دوره‌های مختلف، این که آیا در این پرسش فوق‌العاده مهمی است، گفتن که آیا در نقاط اوج و نقاط عطف می توان از یک در واقع به هم پیوستگی، نوعی پیوند با دیگر مذاهب اسلامی هم سخن گفت یا نه. من اعتقادم این استش که هر جا که چنین نبوده شیعیان نتونستن کار تمدنی مهم انجام بدن، جز از این طریق ممکن نیست، نه اینکه گاهی بوده و گاهی نبوده. هرگاه شما علمای بزرگ رو که ببینید همواره رویکرد همگرایانه با پیروان دیگر مذاهب داشتن، بحث‌های علمی به جای خود محفوظ، نقد می‌کردن، نقد می‌نوشتن، اما همواره رویکرد داشتن. یک نسخه خطی نهج البلاغه در دانشگاه تهران هست که امیدوارم روزی دوستانی که رو نسخه خطی کار میکنن چاپ بکنن. من برای رساله دکتریم به این مراجعه کردم. شرح نهج البلاغه و کسی که داره توضیح میده پیداست از اهل سنت، تعابیری که برای خلفا به کار میبره نشون میده از اهل سنت. بعد همواره یاد میکنه که من این نکته رو از این عالم بزرگوار با تعبیر از یک عالمی یاد میکنه، از اون پرسیدم در سفر به عتبات. من خیلی بررسی کردم، به احتمال بسیار زیاد نسخه مال خواجه رشیدین فضلالله باشه، وزیر غیر شیعی در واقع ایلخانان، و در سفری که در واقع به عتبات خانه مغول داشت و علامه هلی حضور داشته و مدرسه سیاره هم قسمتش مال اونجاست، حدس قوی میزنه از علامه هلی پرسیده. این اصلا همزیستی، همفکری، مراودات علمی با اهل سنت همواره بوده. ما هنوز که هنوزه در حوزه‌های علمی کتاب درسی که طلبه‌ها میخوان، اسم کتاب میگن سیوطی میخونه، کتاب شرح الفیه که عالم سنی به نام سیوطی برای یک مثلا متن سنی الفیه ابن مالک نوشتن، اصلا به نام او شناخته میشه. این همیشه تجربه بوده و در واقع نقش آفرینی تمدنی شیعیان جز با رویکرد همگرایانه ممکن نیست. این که عرض کردم شیعیان این کار رو نه در برابر دیگر گروه‌های اسلامی بلکه به عنوان بخشی از پیکره امت اسلامی انجام دادن، دقیقاً مراد من این بود که ما جز از این طریق که خود رو بخشی از پیکره امت اسلامی بدانیم به هیچ وجه کار مؤثر ماندگاری نمیتوانیم انجام بدیم. اما درباره پرسش سوم که آیا گسترش تشیع در ایران یک نیاز اجتماعی بود یا یک نیاز سیاسی، من اجازه میخوام بگم که هیچ کدام. نیاز اجتماعی که بگید یعنی مردم مثلا نیاز رفاهی داشتن، نیاز مثلا فرض بفرمایید که امنیتی داشتن، مردم به تشیع روی آوردن که نیاز برآورده بشه. نیاز سیاسی این هستش که دولت مردان برای منافعشون و برای بقای خودشون این تصمیم رو بگیرن. من هیچ اعتقاد رو ندارم. تشیع در ایران یه ریشه تاریخی داره که تغییر پایتخت از سوی امیرالمؤمنین علی علیه السلام از مدینه به کوفه نقطه آغازش هست که از اونجا آشنایی ایرانیان با تشیع بیشتر شد. یک انتخاب عقلانی از سوی ایرانیانه. یک انتخاب راه برتر از سوی ایرانیانه، یک انتخاب فرهنگی از سوی ایرانیانه، یک انتخاب علمی از سوی ایرانیانه، نه نیاز اجتماعی. درست در پرتو این نیاز عاطفی ایرانیان، نیاز اخلاقی ایرانیان، نیاز معنوی ایرانیان، نیازهای علمیشون برآورده میشه، اما بیش از همه اینها یک انتخاب بود، انتخاب در بین شهرهای مختلف. و به همین خاطر من درباره صفویه بارها گفتم که این تعبیر که تشیع در عصر صفویه در ایران گسترش یافت رو من قبول ندارم. تشیع در ایران گسترش یافت، یک جامعه شیعی، حکومت شیعی هم میخواست. صفویه محصول تشیع در ایران هستند، نه عامل تشیع در ایران.
Thank you very much. We have time for just one small question. Yeah.
ضمن عرض سلام و خیر مقدم و تشکر. البته خانم دکتر اگر ممکنه به انگلیسی ترجمه بکنید شاید برای هزار.
نه همشون فارسی متوجه.
خب بسیار عالی. من تشکر میکنم، ولی سوالی که من دارم شاید که نه، حتما مرتبط به محتوای مباحث شما نیست. متاسفانه صحبت شما رو من نرسیدم. سوال من یک سوال کلی و یک دغدغه کلی هست. منتها میخوام به نوعی مربوطش بکنم به مطالعات شیعه و شیعه شناسی. آیا از دیدگاه علمی، تخصصی، تحقیقی تک تک شما اساتید محترم میتوان از طریق مطالعات شیعه و شیعه شناسی کم کردن اختلافات فهم دینی بین گروه‌های شیعه را ایجاد کرد؟ چگونه میتوان از این دریچه به این توانمندی علمی رسید که پیروان فرقه های شیعه را به حقیقت واحد دین الهی نزدیک کرد و رساند؟ آیا اساساً این امر شدنی است با توجه به تجربیات علمی و مطالعات شما؟ آیا زمان آن نرسیده که نتیجه این همه زحمات علمی تحقیقی به این سمت و سو کشان؟
خیلی ممنون.
متشکرم.
So if any of you likes to respond to that.
حاضرم میگم چون زیاد صحبت کردم شاید خلاف ادب باشه.
خواهش میکنم بفرمایید.
ممکنه من یه
خواهش میکنم.
به کدوم زبان صحبت کنم؟ به فارسی؟ حالا بنده که از کشور دور میم و از محیط کاملا متفاوت فرهنگی و دینی میم و خودم را هم یک فرد خیلی دینی نمی بینم، هدف پژوهش من شناخت از انسانیت و شناخت از در واقع بنی آدمه و اون مقصود را که شما فرمودید که تقریباً از دیدگاه خود شیعه در واقع حاصل میاد، بنده شریک اون نیستم، ولی باور دارم که شناخت بیشتر از کارهایی که انسان میتونه انجام بده در مراحل مختلف تاریخی حتما به در واقع تفاهم در سطح‌های مختلف کمک میکنه و از این طریق حداقل شیعه شناسی هم به کار خواهد آمد. یعنی نوع کاری که ما انجام میدیم اونجوری نیست که خیلی کاربردی باشه و یهو بتونه به در واقع حل مشکل امروزی به کار بیاد، ولی به جز شناخت از انسانیت هیچ کاری انجام نخواهد گرفت.
بنده یک کمی درباره این موضوع صحبت کردم در مقدمه کتاب سوم من نسبت به شیعه شناسی در غرب و تاریخش و بعد از میشه گفت به نظر من که بعد از انقلاب شیعی شناسی در غرب مخصوصاً باز هم میشه گفت سیاسی تر دوره میشه، سال به سال و این است که به نظر من ما اصلا سوال ما از کجا می آید؟ از فرهنگ خودمون، آمریکا، بریتانیا، ژاپن، سوالاتی که هستش که ما درستش میکنیم و به اینا همین که این بنده خدا به این جوری سوال آمریکایی تقریبا من با رشته آمریکایی یا رشته انگلیسی زبان حرف میزنم، برنامه من با اوناست دیگه، کار من، مخالفت من با اوناست دیگه که شما به طور کلی اینجوری حرف میزنید، خب من مخالفت میکنم با احترام، نگاهی بکنیم به متون اساسی دیگه بگیم شیعیان خودشون چی میگن دیگه که یعنی سوالت شما با اجازه سوال مناسب نیست میگم به انگلیسی این سوال درستی نیست من سوال بهتر دارم و تا اینکه جوابی بدم به این سوال برگردیم به خودشون متون اساسی این دین تا اینکه ببینم اونا چی میگفتن و مخصوصا بعد از انقلاب همین که میبینیم همین الان روز به روز میبینیم که سیاسی تر میشه و همینطور در کتاب دوم من درباره صفویان نوشتم که برنامه صفوی شناسی و سوالات دوره صفوی که هستش در غرب مخصوصا تقریبا نتیجه برنامه‌مون نسبت به تاریخ ایران بعد از انقلاب ما میگیم مخصوصا در غرب شاه عباس همین عین شاه گذشته بود دیگه که و محمد باقر مجلسی ما میگیم حتی امروز میگیم اکثریتمون که درباره علامه مجلسی صحبت میکنم و من اینجوری حرف میزنم حتی به انگلیسی میگم که مجلسی هنوز متعصب بود که خونده میشه هنوز به انگلیسی و تنها نفر بود که مسئول سقوط دوره سلسله صفوی یک نفر خود علامه مجلسی مسئول سقوط سلسله صفوی است می حرف میزنیم اینجوری دیگه بدون اینکه خوب رفتیم توی استخر بهار الانوار این که چی است دیگه که و مخصوصا چون که به نظر من این نتیجه سیاسیه دیگه که و کارمون همین که به وبسایت بنده همین کار من این است دیگه که یواش یواش یه فشار بدیم دیگه که و نسل جدیدی که به دنیا می آید در غرب اونا کمتر به اصطلاح سیاسی تر هستن اینقدر پیر مردم و زنان که نیستن دیگه که عادت نکردن به اینجوری حرفا تعصب علامه مجلسی دیگه که کسی که درباره تعصب علامه مجلسی صحبت میکنه سال به سال روز به روز ماه به ماه اصلا هیچ تجربه‌ای نداره با خود نوشته های علامه مجلسی نگاهی بکنیم به یادداشتی های زیر صفحه کارهای نوشته های علامه مجلسی به فارسی و همینطور به عربی کجاست پیدا نمیشه یعنی آشنا نیستن چجوری درباره یک نفر صحبت بکنیم بدون اینکه خوب با کارهایشون نوشته هایشون شرحالشون آشنا بشن اینم به نظر بنده سیاسی 100% 150% سیاسیه دیگه
چقدر وقت می‌خوام
تقریبا دیگه تموم شده یعنی چون 10 دقیقه دیر شروع کردیم دیگه تا 12 گفتیم ادامه خواهش میکنم بله حسن ختام دیگه شما
چشم خدمتتون عرض خواهم کرد من اجازه میخوام یه در واقع تأملی درباره خود سوال داشته باشم بعد با افزودن یک قید اون وقت با شما همراهی کنم از مخالفت میخوام شروع کنم به یک همراهی برسم و بعد پاسخم رو عرض کنم ببینید این که ما بکوشیم از طریق مطالعات شیعی بتوانیم گروه‌های مختلف درون شیعی رو ایشون پرسششون درون مذهبی بود گفتن خود مختلف شیعه رو چجور به یک حقیقت واحد برسانیم این پرسش یک مقداری در واقع واقع گرایانه نیست این چیزی شدنی نیست اگه بخوایم همه به یک فکر واحد برسیم آنچه مهم هست رواج فرهنگ گفتگوست که ما بتوانیم گروه‌های مختلف هم رو بفهمیم بتونیم با همدیگه صحبت بکنیم بتوانیم در یک محیط آزاد هم بکوشیم حرف رو بفهمیم هم بتونیم حرف خودمون رو بزنیم ما دنبال این میگردیم ولی اینکه همه به یک نتیجه واحد برسیم که اون حقیقت واحد هست این یک مقدار دشواره و ناشدنی است شدن به دست نخواهد آمد مهم فرهنگ گفتگوست فرهنگ گفتگو چه در محیط‌های درون شیعی چه در محیط‌های درون اسلامی بین شیعیان و دیگران چه در گفتگوی بین ادیان بین مسلمان‌ها و دیگر مسلمان‌ها و پیروان دیگر ادیان چه در کل بشریت بین کسانی که حتی ادیان آسمانی رو قبول ندارند و وجه انسانی براشون مهمه فرهنگ گفتگو بسیار بسیار مهمه مشکل ما در نداشتن فرهنگ گفتگو به معنای واقعی کلمه است و الا اینکه حتما همه به یک نتیجه برسن به این سرعت به دست نخواهد آمد بر این اساس من فکر کنم چرا این نشست‌ها خیلی مؤثره این نشست‌ها همین که بنده اینجا می نشینم و از دیدگاه های عزیزانی که شاید باشون همراهی هم نداشته باشم کاملا مطلع میشم، آگاه میشم. این نکته که درباره مجلسی چگونه می اندیشن الان برای من تازگی داشت، مطلع نبودم، هم فرا میگیرم هم فرصتی پیدا میکنم حرفام رو بزنم. اینها رو من مؤثر میدانم و امیدوارم که تو این مسیر همه حرکت بکنیم. پاسخ گرفتید شما؟ بذارید
تقریبا تموم اگه یه دقیقه.
بله شدنی نیست. بله.
ببخشید خانم، ببخشید وقتمون تمومه تقریبا.
نه دیگه. نه حالا اینکه روشن بنده که شیعه هستم برداشتم این هستش که این رو برتر می‌دارم، اما مهم این هستش که این حفظ برتری به مفهوم خودمحور پنداری، به مفهوم اینکه یک سری غیر خودم رو ناصواب بدانم، به این معنا نباید باشه.
خیلی ممنون. آقای دکتر کریمینی شما نکته داشتید؟
Would you please let me more specific, more detailed about some of these Mu'tazilite issues in Uyun Akhbar Reza of Sheikh Saduq?
Well, again, if one is looking
keep it short, like 30 seconds or something? 30 seconds or something?
I said it a little bit in the book.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd be happy to talk with you over coffee.
At the coffee break.
Sorry.
Sorry. Thank you very much for your attendance here. Shall we continue? Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay.
Right, I think you need to recreate the context. And again, I'm looking at particular in the appointment of Qadi Abdul-Jabbar by the vizier. And the vizier then as having this interaction with Sheikh Saduq, and then Sheikh Saduq again speaking this way. It's an inference. It's a farz. It's a supposition. If we try to put all these facts together, all these things are happening at the same time. And therefore you are looking at, especially at, I think, the confrontations between the Imam and the Caliph. I think this is replayed. I think the texts fit nicely into the context in which Sheikh Saduq himself is trying to deal with this problem of political authority, which is not necessarily pro-Shi'i, but it's certainly not pro-tradition. It doesn't support the traditions. So you're using the traditions in effect to say, look, whether you like it or not, this is the reality. So we might not like the fact that the world is round, but that's the reality of it. And in that sense, it is an indirect, if not direct, way of speaking the truth to a power which could overwhelm him and have him executed. And nevertheless, he has the courage of his convictions. Having worked through this problem of al-Hayra, he now confronts this anti-traditionist attitude as embodied by the appointment. And so he puts these to the foreground. And he, in effect, replays that dialogue between the Imam and the Caliph. He, in effect, is putting himself in that confrontational place. It's just a way of looking at it. I don't know if it's true. I don't think you can corroborate it. But it seems to me that it's a logical next step. Because for each of these texts, each of these compilations, this is a personal thing. This is a personal drive that he has to answer these kinds of questions. And so how could one but hesitate to not step into this kind of confrontation that was going on decades before and replay this in the present day? It's as if Shakespeare did the same thing. Shakespeare was prohibited from talking about present day politics. So he went to history, made the same points, just did it in history. Oh, it's just history. Nobody cares about history. Oh, but history is, yes, people do care about history. It gives you the strength to go out there and continue to make the confrontation, but you have to be careful. And so he was being careful. That's just a supposition.
Okay, we have one other question. And if it's sure. Okay.
برای من سوالی پیش آمدهش، در واقع دو تا سوال. یکی از آقای موریموتو هستش، یکی آقای نیومن. جناب موریموتو، شما بحث امتیازها رو در تحریر کتاب‌های انساب فراموش کردید. کتاب‌های انساب در واقع یک سری امتیاز میداد به یک گروه خاص اجتماعی. اینکه در چه زمانی بیشتر نوشته میشه یا کمتر نوشته میشه باید دید که جامعه به چه صورت هستش و این امتیاز هستش که باعث میشه این کتاب‌ها رو بنویسن. و ضمناً از آقای دکترم یک سوالی من دارم. شما خیلی راجع به صفویه نگاهتون منفیه. شما فراموش نکنید دور تا دور ایران امروز ما اهل سنت هستن. دور تا دور ایران، خراسان برید نگاه کنید، کردستان نگاه کنید، جنوب ایران نگاه کنید. صفویه همچی سختگیری نمی‌کردن. مرحوم مجلسی همچی سختگیری نمی‌کرد که به زور بخواد همه رو شیعه بکنن. متاسفانه یک سری مفروضات هستش در ارتباط با صفویه که در غرب شروع شده، تو ایران هم ادامه پیدا میکنه که ما فکر میکنیم صفویه شمشیر. بله، شاه اسماعیل این کار اول کار انجام داد تو تبریز، ولی دیگه ادامه پیدا نکرد. اگر ادامه پیدا میکرد ما این همه اهل سنت نداشتیم تو ایران. به هر حال من این تذکر رو لازم میدونم. مرحوم مجلسی اون کار عظیمش فقط گردآوری هستش، فقط خواستش جمع بکنه اینا. شما میدونید از یمن کتاب می آوردن براش که این همین احادیث رو بتونه جمع بکنه. بنابراین متعصب نیستش مرحوم مجلسی. اخباری خدمات کردن به عالم تشیع، چیز بدی نیستش اخباری بودن که بخوایم ما اینو خورده بگیریم که بگیم که فلانی اخباریه پس آدم یه جوری دیگه فکر میکنه. نه،
خیلی ممنون.
اخباری هم خدماتشون داشتن. خواهش میکنم.
جناب آقای صبحانی شما بپرسید تا دیگه یه جا.
جواب یه سوالی میکنم شاید بعدا بیشتر استفاده کنم. به نظرم میرسه در اصل شیخ صدوق، خب این که فرمودید واقعا شیخ صدوق یک عالم زمان هست، هم با حاکمیت داره کار میکنه، هم با شرایط خاص شیعه حرکت میکنه و حتما زمان در اندیشه و آثار او مؤثره، هیچ تردیدی نیست. اما فکر میکنم یه مقدار اولا اغراق میشه تو این زمینه. حداقل تحقیقاتی که ما داریم انجام میدیم فرضیه های قبلی رو باطل میکنه. سوالی که در این بخش دارم این است که چقدر شما میراث موازی شیخ صدوق رو مطالعه کردید؟ یعنی وقتی از عیون اخبار و رضا صحبت میکنید، به هر حال این میراثی است که منتقل شده، صدوق از خراسان آورده، دست بغدادیای ما رسیده و اونها هم ازش گزارش دادند. چقدر کار حدیث شناسی در این پروژه شیخ صدوق شما مؤثر بوده؟ حالا مسافرت شیخ صدوق به شمال آفریقا به نظر ما خیلی قرائن تاریخی تاییدش نمیکنه، بلکه از نظر ما نادرسته. نسبت به قضیه صفویه و اینکه آثار صدوق از بین رفته یا آثار بسیاری بوده که در این دوره میانی از بین رفته، اینم باز تحقیقات ما این رو تایید نمیکنه. من یه مثالی عرض کنم. تصور بر این است که مثلا بسیاری آثار دست علمای ما بوده که دست مجلسی نرسیده. کار مقایسه ما این رو اصلا تایید نمیکنه. حتی این نکته که فرمودید از مرحوم صدوق کتب زیادی از بین رفته، این رو هم ما باز قبول نداریم و حتی معتقدیم اون چند کتابی که از صدوق از بین رفته به دلیل عدم اهمیت اونه، مثل کتاب النبوات و مدینه العلم دست علمای دیگه بوده، صدوق هم احتمالاً داشته، حتی از اون نقل نمیکنه. میخوام بگم چقدر کار حدیث شناسی مفهومی که امروز وجود داره در کار صدوق شما مؤثر بود.
نسبت به هر دو تقریبا یکیه دیگه. نسبت به تجربه این بنده خدا در مراحل اول این کار هستن دیگه که یکی دو سال هم طول میکشه تا اینکه برسم کار میکنم و میخواستم خدمت برسم تا اینکه باز هم صحبت بکنم دیگه، تا اینکه از شماها یاد بگیرم دیگه که این کتاب اول این بنده، کتاب ناقابل این بنده که 2 بار ترجمه شده به فارسی، اصلا 5 سال طول کشید دیگه که
کتاب‌های قبلی شما دیدین این تحقیقات جدید
البته بله نسب نویسی جنبه اجتماعی داره و همانطوری که جناب عالی فرمودید نوشتن نسب نامه حتما به منظور دادن نوعی امتیاز مذهبی و اجتماعی به یک گروه هست. با این بنده هیچ مخالفتی ندارم و در آثار قبلی هم در این خط هم بحث کردم. یعنی در واقع آغاز نسب نویسی علویان تقریبا همزمان با پیدایش خاندان‌های علویان در مجامع محلی در فرات ایران هست. پس این جنبه همیشه هست. من در اول سخنرانیم در واقع یک نکته را نوشته بودم که یه سببی فراتر از در واقع احترامات و تقدیس علویان که یعنی یک پدیده فراگیر هست در جوامع مختلف و در زمانهای مختلف حتما زیر اون باشد. الان که نگاه میکنم یعنی بازنگری میکنم لازم میبینم که اون نکته را هم که شما فرمودید به اون اضافه میکردم که نکردم. بس از تذکر شما خیلی ممنون.
خب متشکرم از شما. We had two suggestions for future projects. One was the critical edition of Al-Wafi, the other the critical edition of that Nahj al-Balagha manuscripts in the University of Tehran. So perhaps you could go on with that. I thought we could also have some debate about these two different projects on what was going on between the end of the Ghaybat Sughra and the beginning of Safawiya, and what was going on with Shi'a, whether it was a time of growth or a time of decline. So perhaps we could pursue that later. Thank you for your contribution. We will come back here at 1:30. You will talk about the logistics and where is Namaz Khune and everything. So yeah, thank you.